The Hands of Healing, Atlas's Journey. The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of the chiropractic college, illuminating the busy hallway. Atlas adjusted his backpack, his mind racing through the semester's demanding schedule. He was standing at a crossroads in his education, moving between the safety of the classroom and the high stakes of the clinic. He knew that to become a healer, he had to master two very different worlds, the practical lesson and the supervised practice. In the practical lessons, the atmosphere was one of collaborative experimentation. Atlas spent hours in the lab with his classmate, Leo. Here, the world was a controlled laboratory of motion and mechanics. They were peers, roughly the same age and physical build, which made learning the foundational movements predictable and safe. It was a space designed for mistakes, where a patient could give instant, technical feedback. A little more rotation on the thoracic spine, Leo would say, testing the pressure of Atlas's hands. In these lessons, Atlas learned the how of chiropractic. He memorized the lines of drive and the specific contact points on Leo's back. There was no pain here, only the rhythm of practice. The lab was a sanctuary where they could pause, consult a textbook, and try a move 10 times until the muscle memory began to take root. But the threshold of the clinical wing felt different. Dr. Vera, a seasoned clinician with a sharp eye and a steady hand, met Atlas at the entrance. She handed him a crisp, white coat, a symbol of the transition he was about to make. In supervised practice, the textbook stayed in the locker. This was the world of the who and the why, where the techniques he practiced with Leo would be applied to real human lives. Atlas's first patient was Mrs. Gable, a retired librarian who walked with a cautious, stiff gait. As he greeted her in the waiting room, Atlas felt a surge of responsibility that he never felt with Leo. Mrs. Gable wasn't a student practicing a role. She was a person in discomfort seeking help. The controlled environment of the lab vanished, replaced by the unpredictable reality of a clinical history. Inside the treatment room, Atlas sat across from Mrs. Gable, listening to her story. She spoke of years of leaning over bookshelves and a recent fall that made her morning walks difficult. Atlas realized that supervised practice required a different kind of listening. He wasn't just feeling for a joint restriction, he was listening for the impact of that restriction on a woman's quality of life. Dr. Vera stood in the corner, observing silently. She was the safety net, ensuring that every move Atlas made was appropriate and safe. When Atlas hesitated, Dr. Vera didn't give him the answer immediately. Instead, she asked him to justify his clinical reasoning. In the lab, Atlas adjusted Leo because it was on the syllabus. Here, under Dr. Vera's guidance, he had to understand if an adjustment was truly the best path for Mrs. Gable's specific condition. As Atlas finally placed his hands on Mrs. Gable's back, he felt the difference. Her muscles were guarded, shaped by years of habit and the reality of her pain. It wasn't the perfect spine of a healthy peer like Leo. He had to adapt his speed, his depth, and his intent. Under the watchful eye of Dr. Vera, he performed a gentle mobilization. Mrs. Gable let out a long, slow breath of relief. Later that evening, Atlas met Leo for coffee. They compared notes on their day. Atlas realized that the practical lessons had given him the tools, but the supervised practice was teaching him how to use them with empathy and clinical judgment. One was about the art of the move, the other was about the heart of the healer. He needed both to bridge the gap between being a student and being a doctor. As he walked home, Atlas felt a new sense of purpose. The classroom had taught his hands how to move, but the clinic was teaching his soul how to care. With Dr. Vera's guidance and the foundational work he did with Leo, he was no longer just practicing. He was beginning to heal. The journey from student to practitioner was long, but Atlas was finally finding his stride.